Welcome back to the Rounding Third Podcast, episode 9 already. It seems like the year has flown by. So far this year, we're at the halfway point of SEC play. Got 4 weekends to go. With my co-host Brian Ogden here, we've got a special guest, a grad student, about to be a big-time grad student, Jessie Blaine. Welcome to the show, Jessie.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Now, talking about the academic world here. So you kind of got a big test ahead outside of your playing career, of course, but going into law school next. That's the next big step for you. So, LSATs.
Yes.
Tell us about the LSATs.
Right. I took it twice, once this summer and then once in the fall, which was a challenge to take it during fall ball. Just balancing being a student athlete and a prospective law student. But yeah, it was fun. Just mind teasers all the way through. It was a cool challenge.
How long is a test like that? What does that normally take?
About 3 hours.
3 hours. I took the GRE once. It was maybe 2 hours. It might have been 3 hours. A long time ago. I had this air conditioning unit in my ear. You know, you want it to be like silencio, por favor, and it was really, really loud. So it was kind of distracting, but hey, did good enough to get into, grad school, and the rest is history, right? So not quite the same as the LSAT, although Mike Ross does a pretty good job on the LSAT for those Suits lovers back home.
Yeah.
You understand the reference there with Harvey and Mike. But exciting times for you moving ahead. I know, we got a lot to play for the rest of this year, of course, but the LSATs and not only that, the law school stuff coming up for you is going to be pretty awesome. Is there a area you want to try to go into? I know there's a lot of different branches of law degrees. Is there something you want to try to go into?
Right. I'd love to try my hand at sports law and stay in the sports world. But honestly, I'm just excited to get to campus and see what I'm good at. It's a whole new world of academics, and I want to try it all and see what pops out. Absolutely.
Well, much respect for you handling catching duties, hitting duties, and law school duties coming up. So a lot to juggle in your last year here. So exciting times for that.
Yeah. And you kind of got a preview of where you'll be spending some of that time in law school. As we went up to Tennessee this past weekend, I know you're already accepted into school up there, but you get a chance to kind of walk around campus at all and see where you're going to be calling home?
I did, especially with the late game on Saturday. The late start on Saturday for our doubleheader. But I love it downtown. I love the outskirts of Knoxville. It's a really pretty place, and I'm excited to spend some more time there.
Yeah, and let's dive into it. You mentioned the doubleheader, so lots of doubleheaders. That's been a theme of the year. Yeah. 4th straight weekend with a doubleheader. 3rd SEC series that's had to go to a doubleheader. That's the most SEC doubleheaders we've had since 2018, and it's the only 2 times that's happened since we went to the current 24-game schedule. T-Brad, do you remember the days before the 24-game schedule when there were the scheduled doubleheaders?
I don't. Used to the only doubleheaders we had were going to be some of those non-conference weekends or those tournaments down in Clearwater or Palm Springs or something like that. Traditionally you're kind of well equipped for doubleheaders just with the nature of how pitching goes versus, say, baseball on the other hand. But getting into SEC, it's nice to have the day in between, to go back, to watch the film, to get ready for Game 2 and then Game 3. It's been a little bit of a challenge this year with the doubleheaders, especially all these SEC weekends. And then you throw in the bye weekend at Northwestern, another formidable foe out of the Big Ten, another doubleheader on Saturday there too. So kind of a strange, really past month in terms of one of the 3 days has been a doubleheader for us. So Alabama kind of kicked it off kind of strange. We had the Auburn 3-game series, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, which looking back, it's now been the best weather weekend, even though we had a little bit of rain there that weekend too. It's kind of been the best weekend all around in terms of weather, especially as of late. So Alabama weekend was weird, the 2 on Friday, the nothing on Saturday. Usually we spend the night in Tuscaloosa. We're so close, we just kind of drove on back and got out of the hotel contract and slept in our beds that weekend, practiced on Saturday, then went and finished the series off on Sunday with a big 1-run win at the Rhodes House, which is always a tough place to play. We illustrated that quite a bit on the show at the time, but it's been kind of that same thing every weekend since. Texas coming here, doubleheader, off day on Saturday, finale on Sunday. Go in this weekend, 1 on Friday, 2 on Saturday, back Saturday night ahead of the storms. The girls got quite the lightning show out of the windows on the airplane coming in. The pilot came up to me before we loaded the plane. And he said, "Hey, it's going to be a pretty bumpy ride." we're going to be flying parallel to that system. And I think he found a pretty good window. Ex-Air Force pilot, by the way.
It was really quite smooth.
Yeah, he did a tremendous job. I like the military pilots. Those guys always do a great job, and he did a good job getting us in. We had very little turbulence at all. Maybe a little bit dipping out of the clouds coming back into GTR, but all in all, a pretty safe trip there, pretty safe trip back. We got a tailwind coming back. I think 58 minutes max was the air time, and we were back on the ground. So, and it's always good to get off the tarmac and see the old Mississippi State bus right there picking you up. So, hopefully we'll get better weather this weekend. The extended 5-day forecast looks pretty good this weekend for our series with Missouri. So hopefully we'll get back to our normal 3-day set.
Yeah, and maybe the first kind of normal weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Because you mentioned even the Auburn weekend was the Saturday, Sunday, Monday. So you really haven't had a normal, quote-unquote, normal weekend in conference play yet. As a player, what do you like about the doubleheaders? What do you not like about the doubleheaders? Kind of give us your take.
They're unique, and honestly, it depends on your competition, and it depends on your circumstance as a team in the moment. There are times where it's completely a benefit to us when an opposing team has an ace that has the majority of their innings and will only go 7, and you have the opportunity to see some more arms. At times, I feel that we are at the advantage. But then we have a staff that with arms like Delaney Everett, Lexi Sosa, Josie Marin, and we're confident in their innings. So being able to pull out that second game of a doubleheader is critical. But even so, there are times where it becomes a long day, especially on the road. As we saw, when was that? Saturday.
Yeah.
Saturday. We're on the road. It's a late game start, and then we're playing in someone else's field late at night. We've got a long day ahead of us, a long trip home, and we've got to snap back into it and stay locked in a new environment. So there are downsides as well. It really just depends on your circumstance in the weekend.
Well, let's jump into the weekend. So game 1, Tennessee. It was kind of the end of Morgan Bernardini's on-base streak, but she got it out to 17 games, which only Sierra Sacco's got a longer streak this year at 29 on the team. Coach Ricketts has talked a lot about how Morgan Bernardini has just become a very smart hitter. She knows what the plan is going to be. She knows what people are trying to do to her. How much of an impact do you think that has had on her game this year as she's learned more and kind of the mental side of taking an at-bat?
Well, I think we've hit on this before in the show. This is her 3rd year in the program, so 3 years of kind of hearing the message, 3 years of hearing the offensive approach, the mindset, what are other teams trying to do to us, just kind of that game within the game. And you look at somebody like Morgan that's really put the time in, really put a lot of work in, really becoming an expert at her craft, really becoming a really good outfielder for us in left field there too. But she's the kid in the lineup where hey, if you need somebody to execute a game plan, she's going to do it. Hey, you need a sac fly right here. Boom, I got you. Infield's in. I got to elevate one. I got you. Hey, we need a ground ball right side to score a run. I got you. Hey, it's runner at 2, nobody out. I can hit behind a runner. She can do all these things to kind of manipulate at bats to come out advantageous for the Bulldogs, and that's something that she does a great job with. And we saw that day 1 against Nyjah Kennedy, Texas Tech, the go-ahead sac fly. They want to be in the game-winning run for us. Kennedy needs no introduction with how strong her stats are, but to be able to have that at bat, it's easy to get big, especially when a kid's throwing hard. You want to try to, match the speed with the speed, right, or the power with the power. And Morgan understands you don't have to do that. Take what the pitcher's going to give you. If they're going to leave you one out on the outer half of the plate, take it to the right side, and that's what she did. And she's really just done that all along, and kind of a quiet, Sacco's got the big numbers. Chafin's got the big numbers, obviously, in the pitching circle for us, too. But kind of one that falls under the radar a little bit, Bernardini with 17 straight on-base streak going on there. She's had multiple big hits for us. She's had some big home runs for us. She's had some big runs scored for us. Done a good job on the base pass with some stolen bases as well. So you just look up, and she's kind of always in the middle of what's going on that's successfully for us. And really proud of her and her perseverance. And excited. She got another year after this, too. So her and Key Sales both. The production we've gotten out of them this year has been huge, and just a testament to their work ethic and kind of, the way we build this program here.
Yeah, and I think the thing that stood out to me in that streak, 4 games without a hit in the middle of that streak. She's found ways to kind of keep it alive, doing it in different ways, whether that's taking a walk, getting hit by a pitch. When you're in the box, I know you're very similar. You like to really think through the pitchers and kind of what's coming up. Is there a sense of, hey, walk's as good as anything else here? Like, are there times where you get into that, like, I'm going to win the battle and I'm just going to take my walk, I'm going to take the hit by pitch and keep it going to the next batter?
It really depends on the weekend, but a walk is always a win. A leadoff walk is a win. Moving a runner with a walk is a win. So when you're struggling at the plate, having the discipline and the understanding of the game to know that I can draw a walk here, I can drop a bunt here, that's inside, let me get on the plate, see if I get hit by a pitch. It's really just a testament to Morgan's understanding of the game, and also just the gamesmanship of, let me approach this at bat and how can I win it even if it's not a barrel to the wall.
Yeah, and a lot of that as a team. 199 free passes if you count up the walks, the hit by pitches, the times that we've reached on an error where the other team's made a mistake and we've capitalized on it. Key Sells, again, finding a way to get hit by a pitch. She's second in the country in hit by pitches, and kind of what you're talking about. Finds a way to get on the plate, and I know it's a big point of pride for you, T-Brett, that we don't move when that ball comes inside.
We do, and if you watch our games, a lot of times I take some screamers past my head a lot too, and it's one of the things we talk about. If we want our players to hold their ground and let the other team know that, hey, they can't get there in the box with us, we're going to hold our ground, then I feel like in the third base box, I've got to hold my ground. So that might be, very few of us out there that do that. But if outside of one coming at my head, usually I'll wear it. And I've taken some off the knee myself. I've taken some off the foot, of the ankle, the back, the hips. I've kind of been hit by a lot of different ones. Yours come pretty hard at me sometimes. But I try to hold my ground in the third base box just to try to be symptomatic to what we're trying to do offensively too. If we can get a pitcher to move our feet, now all of a sudden they've got the advantage on us. So having that mindset that you can't get us out of our plan, you can't get us off the plate, we're going to hold our ground. I feel like I have to embody that as well as a third base coach too.
Well, moving into the second game, big first inning, and this one wasn't so much the walks and the hit by pitches. The barrels were connecting. So in that run rule victory there in game 2, batted around in the first inning, all but one starter scored in that first inning. So always nice to get out to an 8-run lead before you even have to take the field.
Right.
2 home runs there from Sacco and Barbary. You go back-to-back again. That's the 4th time we've done that. 10th time batting around this season. I wanted to see if either of y'all knew or could take a guess what our biggest inning of the year has been. Can you remember what inning we had the most runs, most batters come to the plate?
I'm going to guess Louisiana. Not Louisiana.
It's not
I don't
Louisiana.
think so. I remember at Northwestern we had an inning of 10 runs because the scoreboard could not account for a 1 and a 0. It was a hot topic in the dugout, so that's my guess.
Jesse's your winner right there. 15 batters to the plate, 10 runs in that inning at Northwestern.
And that's why you're going to law school.
I guess so.
We told you she was smart. She can remember a lot of things, and she files them away for future reference. So, but what does that 8-run start really kind of do for you when you go out to catch? You haven't even gone out onto the field yet. When you've got a pitcher going out there that already kind of has that lead, how much easier does that make things for you?
Right. We've set the tone, and it really gives our pitchers the confidence to approach that inning with their strongest mindset. If she knows that we're working for her in the dugout, she can trust her stuff and go out and go out and execute however the game is asking for it.
Yeah. And lots of kind of milestone markers in that game. So Coach Ricketts now 1 ranked win shy of the school record with that win over number 7 Tennessee. 13th run rule victory, we mentioned that's second in school history behind just last year where we broke that record at 15. And then 4 people hit home runs in that game. That ran the season total up to 54. That's 5th in school history, so keep chipping away there. Coach Ricketts has a hand in all of the top 5 single-season home run totals since she got here as an assistant coach. So she's really done, I know you've mentioned before, her work with the hitters, and that was what she was good at when she played, and she's really kind of brought it to this team and made this team a power-hitting offense.
Yeah, definitely. Her hitting resume, it speaks for itself. And you've seen that early on from the Caroline Seitz years. Even the Kayla Winkfield, who had no home runs ever till her senior year, and Caleb became later our director of operations. Now she's, policeman in Atlanta, in the greater Atlanta, Georgia area. So doing a great job. We got to see all them last week, and they all came back to town for the alumni weekend. It was great to catch up with so many faces that really kind of helped put this program on the map. And you're right, Coach Ricketts had a lot to do with that, with the development of some all SEC players like Caroline Seitz, Kat Moore, another one. Not much of a power presence until she kind of got into our program, and then left with 13 dingers her last year. And so you started seeing a lot of that. Of course, Mia and Fale Lua, Faz, she at 13 was the highest she ever had before she got here. I think she had 23 in her first season with us, just to kind of show, that immediate impact that hitters under Coach Ricketts' tutelage have done. And you're seeing that now. You look at our lineup, and sure, Sosa's got the 10. She's the first one to double digits this year. But there is a just a lineage of 9 homers, 8 homers, 8 homers, 7 homers, 6 homers, 5 homers. It's just a lot through our lineup that have home runs for us. Paige off the bench has a couple. Stiles now has 6 as a freshman, kind of hitting there in the 7, 8, 9 part of our order. So you're starting to just see a lot of the stuff that we take pride in on a daily basis, starting back in August, kind of starting to come to fruition. And there's a lot of factors in that, but Coach Ricketts is, her expertise and the mentality she brings to help hitters on deck with the plans and what they're looking for, and what kind of counts can we work in our favor, what can we hunt in these certain counts. I think those things have all been huge for her, and you seeing that really over the last 10, 11 years now that she's been a part of the Mississippi State program. Just the home run numbers continue to elevate, and we're doing that against the best pitchers. Goes without saying, but we're doing that against the best pitchers. And you look at our league, the league got stronger when you added Oklahoma and Texas this year. And you're talking about the last 2 teams to play for the national championship. They got added to the league this year, and year in and year out, it's got the top staff, the top competition, and just to be able to have 74 home runs, now 54 already, with the absence of a Madison Kennedy, who had 18 or 19 last year, the All-American first baseman for us. So it's just kind of a rinse repeat. You're seeing this year in and year out. There's no surprise that, hey, somebody else is stepping up the next year, and that's kind of been, a pillar of our program for the last several years.
The surprise has almost just been, who's it going to be?
That's right.
Someone's going to, but who's it going to be? And you mentioned the home run numbers. So outside of Lexi's 10, 5 other players have 6 or more. So when you look at 2/3 of your lineup has 6 or more home runs this year, there's really not a spot where you can kind of feel comfortable, because like you said, just about anybody can get into one at any point in time.
That's right.
Delaney Everett got the start in that middle game, picked up her 9th win of the year. We talked last week about the fact that she's now 13-0 in her career. She just finds a way to always give you a quality outing and make it where you have a chance to go out and win the ball game. A couple of her numbers. 1.63 ERA, that's 4th in the SEC, 20th in the country. 5.0 strikeout to walk ratio, again, 4th in the SEC, 16th in the country. And then the big one here, I know, is we were just talking about taking walks offensively. She only allows 1.08 walks per game. That leads the SEC 10th in the country. So when you're catching Delaney, what is it that's different about her? Kind of take us through her mentality and what that relationship looks like.
So Delaney's a fireball, and she comes out onto the mound ready to attack always. I think that shows in her walk numbers. She wants to attack early in counts. She will waste no pitches. And so her mentality, pitch in and pitch out, is I'm going to win this pitch and I'm going to win the next pitch. She's confident in it, and really that's the only thing she needs from me, is to continue putting her in the right mindset to attack. And we have a great relationship on and off the field, really, to allow me to help her maintain that mindset, working with umpires, taking on the SEC hitters, whatever the challenge may be in the moment. She knows that as long as I'm confident in her, she's confident in herself.
Yeah. And we also got to talk about the other side of that game, too, because we mentioned her offensively, but Lexi Sosa came in and really closed things down. And she did that for really the whole series. Mm-hmm. So 2 scoreless innings to kind of close out Game 3 there, or Game 2. And then she had 2 more scoreless innings to kind of bring things home in Game 3 until the only hit she allowed in that game kind of ended it with the walk-off home run. But all in all, just a really solid weekend for her against a very difficult lineup.
Definitely. And there's times where her stuff is really, really electric. She's really got the velocity going with it. The ball's really moving. You can attest to that. There's days where you're like, man, that stuff looks really good. And we saw some of that this weekend. I think one thing about when Lexi's fresh, when she's fresh coming in, she's in a pretty good spot, and she's put a lot of work in to make sure that she's ready to go whenever her number's called. And the other part that doesn't get spoken highly enough is how good she is defensively as a pitcher. We talk about, we do, PFP work at practice, or we do some infield, outfield, traditional, like almost baseball style infield, outfield. She's one of the best ones at fielding the ground balls and immediately going to 2 on the double plays. She turns the 1-6-3s all the time, the 1-4-3s all the time in our practices. She's somebody that's confident moving to the backhand side, to the glove side. She had a comebacker the other day against Northwestern. It was just like, she was almost yawning. It was so easy for her, making the glove in it, getting the out at 1. And she had another one against Tennessee, a comebacker where she easily got the out at 1 there too. So does a tremendous job fielding her position, which is huge. It's almost like having a 10th fielder out there when you have a girl in the circle that can do a good job of fielding the position on part of that as well. But you're right. She got the quick inning, the 1-2-3, bang. It hits a home run on a pretty good pitch down and in. A girl that was coming in from Tennessee doing a pretty good job of locating to both sides of the plate. Sosa got into one, put it out there close to the railroad tracks and left. We talked about them last week, a little lead into what we're going to see with the trains going in and left, little foreshadowing, if you will. But she took one out there close to the tracks too, and then came in and bam, 1-2-3 outs, and that's the ball game. So to run rule them, kind of a weird series in that regard. Every game was a run rule game there. But Sosa did a tremendous job in the circle for us, did a good job with the bat for us. We alluded to the 10 home runs already. But yeah, just somebody that when she's sharp in the circle, it certainly is a plus factor for us.
Yeah, and you mentioned the defensive side of the game, and it's something that a lot of times gets overlooked. We talked about that a few weeks ago when we had Morgan Stiles and Kylie Edwards in here about everybody looks at the pitching numbers and the offensive numbers, but a lot of times the defensive numbers kind of get ignored. We've got a catcher on the show, and we've got catchers that have done a phenomenal job defensively this year. In that third game there, Ella caught another runner stealing. So as a team, 6 runners picked off, 5 runners caught stealing. No other SEC team has more than 2 runners picked off. Jessie here's picked off 5.
Yep.
So wanted to talk to you a little bit about just the throwing game, because I know Coach Ricketts actually talked to us preseason, and she asked for kind of a breakdown of all of the catcher's errors, and she wanted to know where they were. And basically every error you had last year was a throwing error. So what was that conversation like when she kind of pulled those numbers in, and what has been the teaching point that's gone from maybe throwing being an average part of your game to a above average to elite part of your game?
Right. More so in that fact is where the error came from, where the throwing error was. And I missed down a few times last year, and it seems small, but it's really not. It was an adjustment that has turned into a critical one for my career, and it really was the adjustment of finishing a throw, finding a first baseman, finding eye contact, a couple of minute adjustments here or there to really boost the impact for me.
Yeah, and you've now gone more than 200 chances without an error. Obviously, catchers maybe have some of the simpler chances when they just catch the strikeout and you get credit for the out there. But still, only 5 players have ever done that in school history. So talk about the pride that you take defensively to keep things clean back there.
Absolutely. It's a big job. It gets overlooked often, but my hand is in every play. That's why I love catching. You're involved in every pitch. You're involved in every play, and you get to influence what's going on in the circle, what's going on with the umpire. There's really a lot more that goes into it than catching the ball. So I take a lot of pride in it. You're the head of the infield, and your temperament needs to be in check. Your confidence needs to be in check. Your pace needs to be in check. Everything goes into it and sets the tone for an inning. So I love it. It's great.
And you're a huge fan of the defensive side of the game as well. What have you seen from Jessie and Ella that you think has made the biggest difference this year?
Well, I think, controlling the running game is certainly a slice of the pie, if you will. But to your point, what you were just talking about, you impact the game a lot more with the 125 pitches you catch. Having that relationship when a pitcher knows they can bury a breaking ball there with a runner at third and you're going to keep it off the wall, that's a huge confidence booster for whoever's in the circle, knowing that, hey, you got their back on that. And you've had a lot of plus blocks this year to keep runners at bay. Some of the plus blocks have turned into a pickoff. They got a little bit too big of a lead. You throw behind them, get them out, and that's been huge. You're 5. No other SEC team has more than 2. Just to kind of put that into perspective. And you're right, it's something that you take a lot of pride in. You do a lot of throwdowns before the games. You see yourself always over there working on that pregame, and that's been huge for us, keeping runners at bay. And it's not necessarily about the pick off. It's about keeping them from getting a huge lead to where they don't maybe take an extra bag on a base hit in the gap or something along those lines. So the pickoff is certainly, a cherry on top when you're able to get those outs there. And you and Ella have both done a tremendous job with that. And I think looking back at film post-game, the amount of marginal pitches that you've been able to get called strikes this year has been something that's been huge for not only Delaney, you mentioned that a minute ago, but Raylan too, kind of getting those right there on the edge, doing a good job of receiving those, sticking them when you need to, letting the ball travel when you need to. Those have been huge factors that in the scorebook never really show up. But when you're documenting every pitch and you're watching the film after the game, you realize, hey, that's an ace in the hole when you can get those marginal pitches called strikes.
So that's the physical piece of catching, but there's also the mental piece, and you mentioned the relationships. How do you go about knowing what each pitcher needs at the right time, when to call timeout, what to go out and say to them? Take us inside that kind of circle visit, if you will.
Right. Each pitcher is different. For instance, I can see it in Josie's eyes when she just needs me to come talk to her. And honestly, oftentimes, it's just a quick conversation, a quick check-in. What do you need from me here? What do you need from me here? Let's move forward. It's just a quick timeout. Other times, it's just to set the pace of the game. Raylan doesn't need me to come talk to her. She's a competitor. She's fine on her own. As long as we're checking in between innings about the umpire zone, about what's working, what's not. In the middle of an inning, she typically doesn't need to hear from me. However, it is not uncommon for a dugout to have all the momentum, to be loud and runners on base, jumping up and down. We need a timeout from the game. We're going to slow the momentum, figure out a way to turn the tides in our direction, even if it's bringing in the entire infield. We need to find a way to stop this rally, stop this energy, whatever it is, turn the tides. I'm going to take as long as I can here in the circle until the umpire comes to get me, because we need to talk together. We need to be one team here, and the game won't determine that. It really is pitcher dependent, situation dependent, and it's relationship wise. Lexi needs to hear something different than Delaney needs to hear. I know Delaney needs to be fired up. She needs to be confident. She needs to be rolling into the next pitch, knowing that nobody in the country is going to beat her best stuff. But Lexi needs a joke. Lexi's from California. She needs me to pull out a sleigh or some sort of some funny term I don't normally use to make her laugh. That's what she wants to hear from me. It's not physical. It's not approach. It's just keeping it loose in the circle. She's an athlete. That's what she wants to do, and that's how I'm going to speak to her in the circle. So it's relationship-based leadership and reading the situation, even if it's just reading my teammates' eyes and seeing what she needs in the moment.
Yeah, and then there's also the piece where we were in Alabama and all of a sudden pitch comm goes down.
Oh, yeah.
And you and Taryn had about 2 minutes maybe to come up with a sign system and implement it and everybody be on the same page. Tell us a little bit about, I mean, obviously don't give away the backup signs.
Right.
Who knows if you'll ever need those again, but what is the message coming from Taryn in that moment to kind of like, all right, don't panic. This is what we're going to do, how we're going to figure out and move forward.
You want Coach T in your foxhole when bets are off. It was impressive what we came together to figure out. We had 2 systems, one quickly in 1 minute, maybe in a timeout or something or another, working with multiple coaches, talking to multiple players at a time, and that was stressful. But honestly, after half an inning, she had an entire coded system that I promise will never be picked. And it was fun. It was just another puzzle, another piece of the game to dominate mentally. It was a fun challenge, and cool, just cool to work with Coach T in that instance. She's a competitor. Her resume shows it, and in that moment, she was just ready to dominate the next challenge. So I was just excited to work with the staff, work with our players, and find something to really dominate the conditions of the game in that instance.
Yeah. We've talked a lot about the mental side, and we've talked over and over about just how smart you are, the law school piece. You also spent this fall interning in our office.
I did,
Got to hang out with me every day and kind of see what all goes on behind the scenes. What did you take away from that time and in the behind the scenes world?
Right. What I was excited to learn about the sport and really the show of the sport behind the scenes in your office was really just how many hands go into every part of the game. I think as athletes especially, we take for granted the box score, the advertisement for the game, the fan experience, the recaps of the game, there's so many minute details, and they feel minute, but they're really not, because they all work together to create this show and create this great experience for us. So I was happy to learn about the behind the scenes and spread the word to my teammates, just so we can go about the day with more gratitude.
And I think I've told you this before, one of my favorite things about Jessie is she always has very well thought out, respectful questions. And they're hard questions sometimes. And you sit there and you're like, that's a good point, but and sometimes I agree with you, but this is just the way that it is. And I don't like it any more than you do, but that's what it is. And I remember we sat down one day and we were going through the scoring rule book. And because you like to have discussions, okay, why is this a hit? Why is this not a hit? Like I said, they're always respectful. She's never coming at me about why something is or isn't a hit. T-Brat, you have kind of the same approach sometimes. They're like, okay, show me the rule of why, because I just want to understand why. And I think both of you now have spent some time in that rule book. What maybe was the most surprising situation that you found and you're like, oh, I didn't know that was a rule?
Well, we had one this year and didn't realize this till after the Louisiana game, and it's kind of a softball-specific rule that's really not a thing in baseball. And it deals with the slapper, and slapping to advance a runner can be deemed a sacrifice bunt or a sac hit, if you will. So I don't know how many teams are manipulating that rule, but essentially, even with one out, we talk about that in Major League Baseball, they're not really giving a lot of sac bunts on one out. No outs, yes, but not really awarding the pitcher back when the pitcher was bunting. They might award them the sac bunt with one out, but nobody else is really getting credit for a sac bunt for moving a runner with one out. But in softball, there's a part of that rule that you found and you showed it, and it was after our Louisiana series where, if you're advancing a runner on a slap, moving through the box, even though it's not a bunt, it's a ball that's actually being hit and play, can be deemed a sacrifice. And whereas you really don't have that in baseball at all. Another weird one is the whole home to first thing. In baseball, you can hit one to the first baseman and bat pedal to one, try to avoid the quick tag, and no harm, no foul. Softball, you move 1 inch back, and all of a sudden the batter's out, and the runner's got to go back to their previous base. So just kind of some weird odds and ends between the two. But that was one. And one of our first and third discussions, we went down a big rabbit hole in first and third scoring, is we had a double steal scenario. It was against Auburn, and Riley stole second. But we're trying to say, well, why did the runner at third not also get credit? She scored on the play on the throw into two, and it's because you weren't going forward at the time. You had kind of stopped and was actually leaning back. So therefore, only Riley got the stolen base and not you. And that kind of went down a rabbit hole of, because you want to get a stolen base this year. That's one of the things you asked about in the preseason was, hey, I want to get a stolen base this year. So we're still working on that. We got really close to having one on a double steal scenario play, but it wasn't obviously ruled correctly, and Riley's the only one that was able to get one on that. But that's kind of some fun games within the game, if you will. First and thirds are kind of interesting because typically the runner at one has a lot of rules about them, but there's not really as much about the runner at third or even a second and third double steal type. You really don't see that But we had a scenario where you could argue, well, maybe there's the trail runner. Do they get credit for one? And we won't get into to the specifics of that play.
It's about 3 pages in the rule book that I sent you that were every possible scenario. There's a lot on the first and thirds.
But it's not as cut and dry as you would think. A dirt ball read, for instance, if you have any hesitation at all and you're not in motion on the pitch, you can't get one. And there's some teams in our league that have credited stolen bases on that, and you're like, wait a minute now, that's not right. But we're not going to call them out here on the show. But it is always kind of, what are the certain things being ruled by the official scorekeeper, and what are the ones that aren't? And I think we do a pretty good job on hits, errors, stolen bases, non-stolen base, sack hits, sack flies, all those things. I think we're one of the ones that play by the rules in terms of all that.
What stood out to you? I think I can think back to one in particular around wild pitches and pass balls.
Oh yeah, just as a catcher, you take pride in all the little things, and I had no idea that just a ball in the dirt, in my mind, is an expectation, especially if it's hitting you in the middle of your body. It's in the dirt, you block it up just like any other ground ball for any other fielder, but it's considered a wild pitch. And
the minute it hits the dirt, it's not on you anymore.
I really should have known that. It's almost embarrassing that I didn't know that, but I really should have known that.
How many times have you caught and thought, dang it, I had a pass ball there and it wasn't on you?
Well, honestly, in my entire career, it's funny sometimes your expectations of what's considered an error, what's not considered an error, and in the scorebook, it's not always how it goes down. So as a player, you take all the little things. You take no things for granted, and honestly, the scorebook only matters so much. It's for the fans. It's for the fans, and it's for the rule books. You're taking responsibility for all the little things, even if it doesn't create a mark in the scorebook. But I didn't know that one.
That's where Taryn's got a new stat. Maybe we should make a real stat. She calls it the SBO, a should be out. It's not an error because of some sort of rule. It's not an error, but she feels it shouldn't be a hit. I think of one in particular where we had an outfielder that tripped and fell on a pop fly and couldn't get back up in time to catch it. The rule book says if you trip and fall, it's a hit. And she's like, that shouldn't be a hit. That shouldn't go against my pitcher. SBO. She writes it in her book, SBO.
Just make it a push. Yeah. Like I think it's a push.
Yeah. Count it like a walk.
Yeah.
It doesn't help anybody.
Yep.
But all right. Well, when you're rounding third, you are heading home. And so, Mr. Coach T-Brow, what do we have this weekend?
Big weekend ahead. We alluded to this about 30 minutes ago on the show. Finally, some good weather. There's very little percentage of any kind of accumulation with precipitation this weekend. I think Friday is 0.02. So hardly anything rain-wise. A little bit cooler temps. Going to be in the mid-60s this weekend. I think might get up to 70 on Sunday. But the sun should be out. So great weekend, great opportunity for a lot of the fans to come out. The last 3-day series we had, it was spring break. So a lot of the college students and the Monday night thing, a lot of our college kids were gone. But be at News Park this weekend. We got a big series. Missouri coming to town. Missouri, one inning, really one out away from the World Series last year. They went to Game 3 in the Super Regional that they host. They were the number 8 national seed last year. Had a tremendous series with Duke. So Larissa Anderson, she's done a tremendous job since she's been there. I think they've hosted Super Regionals twice now in her tenure. So a very good Tiger team coming to town. Really need the forces out in full effect this weekend at News Park. Come out and see us. Top 20 ranked Bulldogs scrolling in. The new polls haven't come out this yet today that I've seen anyway. So we've kind of been hovering in that 12 to 20 range pretty much most of the year. So girls are playing well. Come out and see us. We got a 3-game set beginning Friday night. Saturday is our pink day. Isn't it Saturday or is it Sunday?
Saturday is the pink day, and then Sunday is first responder day. So,
oh yeah, love.
We love to have the first responders and the fire trucks out in the outfield. I'm still waiting for Lexi Sosa to hit a ball off the ladder truck because they always park right in her home run alley. But to kind of wrap things up, the police versus fire home run derby post game Sunday. Who are you taking and why?
The firemen. I'm taking the firemen again. The firemen always win. I mean,
they are 4-0. That is
the Las Vegas odds on the firemen has got to be pretty up there. It's like probably 10-1 right now.
Jessie?
I don't know how I could bet against the police department.
I understand. Yeah.
I really don't. I want all the warnings and no speeding tickets.
There you go.
So
All right. Touche.
just for my personal reasons, I will always vote for the police department.
Well, don't park close to the outfield fence post game on Sunday because these guys are going to be launching these things all the way to Highway 82. So should be fun. I always enjoy what the first responders do for us, the protection and the service they provide to this community. But come out to see us this weekend. We got a great 3-game set with the Missouri Tigers beginning Friday, concluding on Sunday. So good weather. A little bit of wind. Hopefully it's blowing out when we're hitting and not when they're hitting. But, that's a conversation for another day. But certainly excited about the opportunity we have to be back at home in the friendly confines of News Park this weekend.
All right. Well, for Mr. Coach T-Brat, I'm Brian Ogden, and this is Jessie Blaine. Hail State.
Hail State.
Hail State.